You. 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 You.
Timmy Chunks.
Come here. You. Come here, Nettie Rose, aye. Come here, Nettie Rose, aye. Hey, you guys.
And that was like our imitation of
Timmy.
I remember the first time he came up with it. I just remember hearing it and being like, what the hell are you doing? You. It was insane.
So Chunks was like just named after Timmy Chunks. And the logo was like the little cartoon of Timmy Chunks' head from like the first Token Entry, Beneath the Streets record.
We found the apartment on Hamilton Street. In general, people were kind of disappointed because we didn't have this huge house. We had to leave the ramp, and we had no possibility for shows anymore.
It was a brick building, and it really heated up, and it was kind of shaped like a big cardboard box.
Just like they'd fumigated it like a week before we got there or something. In the room that ended up being mine and Shal's, the floor was like, I'm not even kidding, it was like just covered in dead cockroaches.
Pots and pans in the sink and, clothes everywhere and just junk, like, hey, I found this sign, oh, just what we needed, a Goya bean sign.
We had one of those huge water balloon launchers, those giant slingshots, and we could go on the roof, and 1 block in either direction was a bar. So we'd go on the roof at like 2 a.m. when the bars started letting out and try and hit people coming out of the bars.
Like they'd come out of the bar and a water balloon would like, psh, like right by them. They'd be like,
people would call the cops and we'd be like, shit, and we'd be like crawling back into the house, shut off all the lights.
You're just a bunch of kids that have nothing to do, so you make movies.
We did the karate thing, and there's like, that makes us look like karate masters, but just a few simple camera tricks.
We're like this rough gang of hooligans, Santa Clauses, and we like beat up Lamar.
The best one of that was the Brian giving birth to Rob.
You just have a ton of fun. That was all it was just always fun.
At that house was where we first wrote Joe Lies, and that was the song that changed everything.
Just testing this song out. Hope you like it. You like playing it? No, bro, pretend that it's really good already. You have to fake the song. It's fucking bad. That's really awesome. You don't like it, like right off.
When we wrote Joe Lies, it was like some kind of epiphany. We're like, oh, right, 3 chords.
It was just happened so easily too, one of those weird moments.
20 seconds. What the hell note is that? You playing Crimson and Clover? Come on, we're gonna be jerking off here. Just play the one note. Let's be boring. Play the one note. Yeah, but less is more, Pete. Listen, I got some ideas here. Let me try them. All right. Yeah, Mr. Confrontational Man. That is I. Just sit there, dumb me up, and play that dumb bass line over and over while I think and spank.
The lyrics are good, like the music is good. I was like, that's a full like roller coaster of a song where it takes you up the big steep hill and you go down the huge drop and you do the loop and you do the crazy twist and then you do another loop and then you just cruise back into the end. Like from beginning to end, it was just a full awesome song. I was like, that's good songwriting. I was like, that song kicks ass. And then after that, they started cranking out like Neurotic. These are the quotes from my favorite 80s movies. And I was riding in the van when they had that idea. They're like, just started quoting songs. Like, we should make that a song.
So driving down in the van, I wrote this one. It's called These Are the Quotes from Our Favorite 80s Movies. Yeah! 1, 2, 3, 4. He's cool. He's hot. He's from the valley. He's not.
I just realized right then, it's like they just wrote a killer song in 2 hours. It's like they are unstoppable.
we sold out City Gardens, and that was like 800 people. That's when we're like we got to go on tour, you know, like not just like be a local band.
Oh shit, we really fucked that up. That was awesome.
Hobble Pod was like the blessed first vehicle, you know, it went forever, and if you could ever believe that your car had a personality or, you know, was alive in any way and looked after you and your safety and well-being in any way, that van did.
It was a Hobble. It was spray painted, and it was just like, you know, pull me over, written all over it.
It was like a brown Dodge van that coated with stickers and tags, and that's what was our home for years. We loved that van, you know, it was like a member of the band.
It had its little problems here and there, you know. That's because we were pushing it a little hard, you know. It had to be like, hey guys, take it easy, you know. Just give me a new water pump, and that's all I need.
They had one of those clams on the roof, and they had loaded it down once too heavy, and it collapsed the roof. So there was like a broomstick in the middle of the van holding the roof up. That thing stank.
Yeah, man, we're out of here.
US tour '93.
Yeah, man.
I think one transition was when they toured with Lifetime. They were an established band, and they brought the Souls along, and they got people who had never seen them before, heard them.
There wasn't really any expectations. We didn't expect anyone to show up because no one knew us. Hey, look, there's 10 people here. Let's play and kick butt.
We would stop at kids' houses all the time. I remember in South Dakota, we would go like jumping off cliffs.
The first couple of tours that we did were all about that, just about like fun stuff and finding adventures.
It was more of a vacation. I mean, I didn't really do anything. I was just like, huh, all right, I'll grab that, you know, and sold the shirts.
We never ate at restaurants, and we never stayed at motels. We had like a loaf of bread in the van and like a jar of peanut butter.
We brought the propane stove, we camped out, cooked food for everybody.
This is our last song. We need a place to stay, you know, Greg would say. Sometimes you'd luck into a great place, and sometimes you'd stay at a place where there's like cockroaches crawling on your face and some guy's got a chicken bone through his earlobe or something, you know?
That's when we met Margie too. She was booking the tour for Lifetime.
We just became really friends with Margie, and we're like, book us another tour right away. Book us another tour right away. We want a tour, we want a tour, we want a tour. And we're like, that winter we did like another big tour. It was like just by ourselves. 1993 Drink Coffee and Destroy tour, and brought Rob Santello, and we're like, Rob, you'll be our tour manager. And it was really funny because he was like, you want me to manage your band? I can't even manage my life.
Have you seen my room? Have you seen my life? Yeah, I'll organize your tour. In retrospect, it was fun, and at the time I remember bitching a lot.
Okay, here's the situation. Our parents went away on a week's vacation and we're lost. Hey, you want that thing to turn into an anal probe? That's where it's gonna wind up, buddy. Blah, blah. Pete snaked my swing. I don't want to be touched. Don't touch me. There. Don't touch me. Ow! I'm getting punched in the face. I got popped in the eye.
Oh my God, it's like I'm burning off bad karma or something. I don't know what I did to deserve this kind of thing.
They would just go and go and go and go all the time. Back then it wasn't like, you know, you're going on the big headline tour, the support tour is just like tour because no one knows you, and like the more touring, the better.
And we figured, well, we don't need a place to live if we stay on tour.
The more they went on tour, the less money they could earn at home to pay the rent for the apartment. Eventually shifted into like homelessness and really squatting around. There was a whole era after the box where we all kind of squatted at White Lotus, which was a futon shop.
It was like a lesbian-owned and operated like kind of collective. The likelihood of me getting a job there was just like, you know, this punk kid with a mohawk, like what, you know. And I would go in there, and Kate was like the one who I'd talk to, and I kind of developed a little friendship because I'd keep going in there and bugging her.
He would walk or skateboard right past the futon shop, which had a huge, you know, plate glass window, or we'd be like hanging out in the driveway. So I would see him go by all the time, and I'd be like, that kid.
I got to know her, and I sort of wormed my way into her heart eventually, like, and she hired me.
So I was like, fine, I'll give you a job, but like the burden of all mankind is resting on your shoulders, so you better do well.
You just had to make like 20 futons every week, and it took about an hour roughly to make each futon. It was like really good handmade futons, and there was like a whole art to it.
I train him, I teach him how to do it, which takes like 8 hours, you know, totally grueling. And then he's like, oh yeah, and I'm going on tour tomorrow, but I'll be back in 3 weeks. And I was like, no, see, you can't say that now. But he totally had me, and he knew it.
Like many jobs that ever happened in Soul's World, one person gets their foot in the door and 10 more people stumble in behind.
All the boys would be rolling in. Hey, what you doing? What you doing? What you doing?
Greg and Chow lived at lived at the futon shop. Like they would like sleep on the futons in the front showroom, you know, and like, you know, he'd wake up to like people looking at him in the windows, you know. And Kate just kind of like hired them and let them stay and let them work there, and just kind of slowly became our den mother.
It provided a home for us. It provided a job for us. It was just like a place for us to be and like have our little headquarters, you know, where we would like plot to take over the world.
I wanted to change. It was one of those times in my life when I was like, I gotta move on, I've gotta shake this off.
You always had this long ponytail.
So I just went to the show and made a big dramatic show of it, cut it off and threw it out.
He threw it out into the crowd and somebody caught it. And whoever caught it originally gave it back to him. He's like, no, the fuck, dude.
Here's my hair, I cut it off tonight. Big garden show.
You know, and I don't know, someone ended up with it, and we heard later it was on eBay for like whatever. Someone was selling it with the story of it. It's out there somewhere in the world.
I always thought it was kind of symbolic of times that are changing.
Right around the time we wrote Joe Lies, I remember I was at my dad's house and we had a show at the Roxy. There was an old suit in the closet, and I just picked it up and grabbed it and said, I'm gonna wear this tonight. That was sort of a turning point. When I wore the suit and the tie, we started to sound a little different, look different, and it was evolving into something new.
The Good, the Bad, the Argyle was kind of our first. To me, it was our first real release. I consider that like the first record. Greenball Crew to me was just kind of like the thought that I wish I never had. You know.
Most of it was already recorded from 7 inches. That's why it was titled The Good, the Bad, and the Argyle. It was like some good stuff, some bad stuff, and the Argyle EP.
The truth is that it's actually really beautiful. It's just got this innocent kind of energy to it.
I sing a song of old school, I don't really care where you were or who you know. Sing a song of old school, we don't really care what you have to say about this show.
That was like when I fell in love with them, you know, and not like fell in love like I wanted to see their butts, fell in love like, wow, these are fucking awesome people, and look at them up there, like, these fucking jerk-offs who work for me and can't keep their feet clean are like up there making this music, screaming. Look at Greg, he's so quiet as a person, and he's up there like screaming.
Lies! Lies!
The summer of '94 that came out, and then we ended up doing shows with bands like Rancid and The Offspring, like when those bands were getting kind of bigger.
Youth Brigade came out to Jersey and played a show. It was like everybody, Lifetime, us, all these bands played this show at Middlesex County College. And there we are at the futon shop. We get a phone call from Sean Stern. Hey guys, thinking about blah, like he wanted to like sign us.
BYO wanted to put the record out. At that point, we just wanted to always own the rights to our stuff.
We didn't want to sign. We were like, DIY, but can you help? You know?
I remember them calling me and being like, hey, BYO wants to do a P&D deal with us, a package and a distribution deal. And I was like, no way. And Brian was just like, Sean Stern called us. Oh, we talked to Sean Stern on the phone. And they were more blown away by the fact that they talked to Sean Stern from Youth Brigade. then like the record deal was just kind of secondary.
So they picked up the Good, the Bad, and the Argyle. We had pressed 2,000 and sold 2,000 on our own already, just like from touring. So we did like BYO's 10-year anniversary. It was like 10 years of BYO in your face. It was like us, Youth Brigade in 7 seconds. It was like our heroes, you know? Just the greatest fucking tour ever.
And they were like, you should come on tour with us. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I got work to do, you know?
That was a gnarly tour, actually, because the second day of tour of like this fucking 7-week tour or whatever it was, we played and 7 seconds was up and I was in the pit like going nuts and I fucking crack and fucking whoosh, and totally tore the ligaments in my knee, tore the anterior cruciate ligament, ACL. Like I was like, duh! It's like full, you need reconstructive surgery. It's like hardcore, you know? The shit was swollen up to here.
Brian had problems with his knee since he was a kid and it wasn't strong.
Nowhere to live, no money, and we had the tour. We had the tour, you know. The very next night, I like went up and like out of habit jumped on the first song. Was I Like Your Mom? Pete's like no 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 no, and I'm like ah, and like fully fucking exploded again, and I just went down, and I was just like on the ground, like I kept playing, I didn't stop playing, and I'm like, and my head's like, it was total fucking pain, like I can't even describe. I just like played this, and they didn't know what was going on. They're like, oh, Greg's like, oh, I guess Brian's gonna sit on the stage and for the show. I'm like,
okay, we need to figure out like, did you sprain it? Is it broken? Do we need to go to a hospital? And the whole time he was like, total cranky Brian, so it's hard to get the answer. But you know, like, I know I need the surgery. That's it. Nothing will help me. It's not gonna help me if we go to a doctor or whatever. Okay. Can't argue with people when they're hurt or sick. It's always a bad idea.
It happened like later on that same tour. Like I was like horsing around like with this punk girl that I liked at some show.
Does she really know how to give a hickey, or does she think that's a hickey?
She's not about hickeys, dude. She's about taking a bite out of fucking crime, man. She said, I want you, and I said, I lust you, and she said, I want to bite you, and she bit me. And then she kept biting me, and she was biting me a lot all night, biting me really hard. She bit me a lot.
And like at one point, she like came up from nowhere and like tackled me, and my knee went and did it again. And just like the thing was fucking the horse shit, man. My knee was just fucking garbage wrapped up in skin. It was like so gnarly.
Look at you, man. Look at him. Look at your fucking neck, dude. Look at your knee. Look at you. It's one night, one fucking girl, and look at you. Well put. I'm sorry, man. That's my beer, dude. That's my medicine, man. What are you doing?
It's kind of funny, but I'm sure he was in total pain the whole time. He was a total fucking trooper, you know? He's like, I'm gonna finish the tour, I'm gonna finish it. He's like, fuck you, you know?
We walked around for months with like his leg duct taped together, like duct tape, layers of duct tape around his leg to like support his knee because it was like the only thing he could do.
I somehow figured out that I could get him free surgery at St. Peter's because it's a Catholic Charities hospital and he was a poor, dirty punk with actually no job and no money.
I got operated on by college students. I got the reconstructive surgery for free. Filled out all this paperwork. I'm indigent. I got nothing. And I had just like 3 months I couldn't walk. And I had to, I lived at Kate's house, and she'd like make food, all my meals for me, like walk me to the bathroom, like the whole deal, like.
And he kind of grew a beard and was just laying on in his bed. He couldn't move, and he was just, it was kind of like Larry Flint, you know, like where he's like locked up in his bedroom, and then all of a sudden he's just like disheveled.
We wanted to keep company, but we don't end up like in the other room, like having a party, you know. And like we'd hear him in the bedroom, like, "What's going on out there? What's going on? What are you doing?" You know. So instead of like making him feel better, he'd just be like, "Oh, they're all here. They're all having fun. They're all having fun without me."
And then one day he got up and he was like, "I'm better," and he left.
And that's when I just disappeared into New York City, and I'm like, I'm going to the Lower East Side. That's where I want to be. I can be homeless there, you know, and just went and just started crashing on the street and just. I was also really depressed, and I was just drinking like all day and all night, and that was like how I was able to sleep like on a piece of cardboard on the sidewalk.
Brian would tell me stories like, yeah, I was at fucking Continental and I got all drunk and I got into a fight with a bunch of Hell's Angels. And I was just like, what?
Stories of,
drunken revelry in New York, and I stayed in the squad. I met the squatters, and I was in the Chelsea Hotel with the drummer from Gigi Allen's band.
Brian went through this period where he just, smelled a lot and he drank a lot, he didn't bathe and he just went nuts for a while.
The smell was insane. It was way beyond your average body odor.
You could sense that tension, like, hey, I'm holding it together and you're just being a fuck off. That's great if you want to be a fuck off, but it's fucking up our band.
It just got to a point where I was like rock bottom, and those guys had like an intervention, and like Kate and the band. It was at Johnny X's house, and they're like, all of a sudden, like everybody's sitting there and looking at me, and I'm like, and they like started talking to me, and it was weird. And I'm like, oh, this was planned or something.
It was good because everyone just told him how we felt about how he was living, and he started to change.
It just felt fucking weird and like wrong, and I'm like, but they got through to me, I'm like, okay, all right, okay. I'm like, went and shaved my head, and it was weird. It was like I felt different, and I, looked in the mirror. I'm like, just started getting it back in shape, and like not drinking so much, and like got into like living healthy, and got into Tai Chi, and like discovered the Shaolin Temple in New York. For 3 years I trained at the Shaolin Temple, and it changed my life. It worked my way into living in a squat, which was great. That's when I moved into Serenity.
I mean, it was an abandoned building that had been rigged up pretty much to work.
I went there a couple times when Brian was living there. He did amazing things with his room.
We went in there and did some sheetrocking and some spackling and sanded the floor.
I remember going there. They had TV, they had hot water, they had a phone. There's no toilet right in their spot.
He had a, some kind of little like porta potty device, which was like, pretty disgusting.
But they were living on, 9th or 10th in Manhattan for free.
Greg was floating around here and there, and Pete was living in Hoboken. So Brian kind of like got the door open.
It's just kind of like got us all in one by one into that world, and sort of took over the East Village.
Brian was sort of like the Lewis and Clark of New York City for us, really.
Through all of that, Brian kicked open more for the band.
We were doing 6 shows with Social Distortion on the East Coast.
We were on our way to the last show. It was in Philly. We were on our way in the Havapod, and we're like rolling up in line for some toll.
And I turn my head and I see people like driving sort of in tandem with us, but like 7 lanes over, going like this.
Some guys like yelling at us, like from another car. It's like yelling, like, "You fuck with your band, you're on fire." We're like, "What? Fuck you,"
And then I see the guy's mouth. "Your van's on fire," and I was like, like totally could see it.
Shao turns just like, "What? We're smoking."
Slams it in a park. Like we're moving, like maybe only like 15 miles an hour, but slams it in a park, gets out. And then as soon as we're not moving anymore, there's smoke everywhere because the van's on fire.
Fuck. Everyone out.
Everyone out.
It was fully smoking, and there was flames underneath it.
We're causing this major traffic jam, but we decide to go in and crawl underneath the loft and get all the equipment out, because this is all that we have in the world.
The scramble to get everything out was just like, no one even said anything. It was just stuff started getting thrown out.
It started raining. The minute we took all the gear out.
We're like hiding behind the highway divider. It was like the van's totally on fire. We're like, it's gonna blow.
Shao ran to the toll booth to get a fire extinguisher, not helping him at all. Don't care, could care less. They're like, call a tow truck.
They wouldn't give it to him, so he just grabbed it. He runs back to the Havapod, sprays it in a huge cloud.
Trying to put it out.
And the traffic is everywhere around us, and people are beeping. And I don't know about you, but if I was driving my car and there was an old van on fire, I would not pull up next to it and beep at it.
It was so sad, and there we were out in the rain with all our equipment, like, and then, they called the tow truck and just towed it off, and that was the last we saw of it.
Towed the Havapod away. We waved it goodbye. A faithful friend.
So many tours. The thing was the best. And it went out in a blaze of glory.
Mike Ness was like, when he paid Bad Luck that night at the show, he's like, "This one goes out to Bouncing Souls because their van caught on fire and they didn't make it today. It's called Bad Luck."
And then something happened to me that day. Like, I crawled into a van that was on fire to get someone's guitar amp. What? You know, like, it's love.
They had bought the Jewish Community Center half bus.
The Jewish Community Center housing bus, which we call the Sucky bus.
Every band seems to go through this. Like, we're gonna get the mini school bus. The mini school bus. It's cool because it's the perfect size. It's a little bigger than a van, but they never run for shit. And this one like fucking sucked.
I remember them telling me they were gonna buy it. We're gonna buy this bus, and I said, don't do it. Don't buy a bus. It's the curse. All bands buy buses. It never works. Don't fucking do it. They did it anyway, and it was a sucker bus.
We thought we were stepping up, but really we were stepping back.
It just couldn't handle the highway punishment of long driving, and we built this loft in the back that was really heavy. We used 2x4s and big heavy plywood to make it even heavier than it already was. And it was just a van engine.
It broke down like, must have been 10 times. We must have dropped like $15,000 in that thing.
We got 3 shows with the Offspring in Florida, and it was right as Offspring had just blown up and gotten giant.
We went on a tour of playing, you know, coffee shops and basements, bars with nobody, and boom, we're in front of 2,000 people in Fort Lauderdale opening up for the Offspring. And Tom Wilson was doing sound.
So we met him and we're like, wow, you're Tom Wilson, like you did TSOL, you did the Vandals, you did Dead Kennedys, like tell us about the Dead Kennedys, tell us about the Vandals, you know, tell us about TSOL. And so like we sat around with him one night and drank like one of those nights after the show, and we really got to be friends with him. And he's like, I'd like to work with you guys are cool.
Offspring sold like whatever millions of records they sold. The next record Tom did was ours for nothing.
He was like a multi-million selling producer at this point. And he turned down Aerosmith and he turned down Kiss to do that Bouncing Souls record, Maniacal Laughter, which was so funny. Like, we were nobody. We were on our own on Chunks-Ah, like with BYO distributing it.
We had a couple songs and probably had like half the record written. We were in California for about 3 weeks.
And Sean wanted us to sign over to BYO, just sign to a label. And we wanted to keep the rights to the songs.
They go to the Stearns, they're like, we don't have the money, so we want to borrow it from you to do this manufacturing and distribution deal, which is basically, you know, we want you, the record company, to pay for it, but you're not going to own it in the end, you know?
So we were just kind of hoping Sean would give us the money, loan it to us.
But the Stearns agreed, and, you know, the Souls, out of all the bands that have been on BYO, I would say that the Souls are probably, you know, the best friends with the Stearns.
For all intents and purposes, we really were on BYO, except that we owned the stuff. It's on Chunks-Ah, technically. We had a studio date with Tom booked and everything. We had like 4 songs or something. Sean was like, what the hell, are you gonna give me a 7-inch? Yeah. We're like, nah, dude, we're gonna write some more songs. Don't worry about it. And like, went down in the Youth Brigade's basement and like wrote Lamar Vinoy and like wrote a bunch of songs. Like wrote half that record, like, nah, because we're just like so on tour and so in that head. And it was just like boom, 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 everything.
We were sitting outside the studio taking a break. A black Range Rover drove up, and out walks Gene Simmons.
It's like, hi, I'm Gene. Hi, Gene. We're like, fuck yeah, you are, you know?
Who are you? And he said, I'm fine. He said, no, who are you? And he said, oh, I'm Shal. And I said, who's your band? He said, the Bouncing Souls.
We were in the control room with Tom Wilson. We were mixing Lamar Vinoy, listening to Lamar Vinoy. We just tracked it or whatever. And they came in and they were like, well, here's the whole band Kiss, like in the room listening to Lamar Vinoy. We're like, this is so weird, you know?
And they were like, this is really good, man. You guys are really good. Like, you're Kiss. Stop it. And you're Kiss. And just stand right there. You know, just let me look at you.
There's days of Greg watching Jeopardy with Gene Simmons, which is freakish.
And I like sat between the two of them and like watched like the O.J. Simpson trial, like just bullshitted, hung out with Kiss, like wow, man.
You can hear on Maniacal Laughter that everyone is unified. We're a live band and we're playing in that way, and it comes off on the record and it explodes from the record.
What you hear on Maniacal Laughter, essentially, that was essentially just our live set.
The Jewish community housing bus finally shit the brick. We broke down on the way to the show in Austin.
Middle of nowhere, and I was like, wait, I have AAA+. We can get towed 100 miles. 100 miles. And it was like 99 miles to San Antonio.
But there was no way they were going to let us ride now as it was towed.
So we were like, okay, everyone hide in the back, hide in your bunks, cover yourself up.
So Kate and Chow pretended to be a couple, like, you know, like driving around the sucker bus, you know, being like hippies in the truck.
Shal and I are like, yeah, we just got married. We're driving around the country. And the guy's like a lonely truck driver. So he like wants to know all about it.
Wig really had to take a piss. And like everyone, you piss in a jar. Like you lay on your side and you piss in a jar in your bunk. Like that was just how it went, you know. And Wig couldn't do that, like hadn't done that ever. Would always just like hold it until we pulled over or whatever.
So he's like in his bunk for like an hour, like, I gotta go to the bathroom so bad. I gotta go to the bathroom so bad. He's like, oh, dude.
And I remember that was very traumatic for Wig. He was like,
and when we got there, like the boys had used every empty bottle, peed in everything, eaten like scraps of stuff out of wrappers that were back there.
The promoter came and got us like just in time, like got to the show just in time.
We rode in the back, trapped in the back of a towed car all day. So I'm having fun now. It's awesome. It's cool as hell.
Could everyone spell fun?
Played the show, and like right after we played, there was this giant like skinhead riot. It was like 15 or 20 skinheads just like went ape shit.
It's a twister! It's a twister! RPM!
Some skinheads threw a Christmas tree through a bay window after the show.
And it was just like, gosh, the lights were like sparking, and then they ran out the door like a knife and was like stabbing cars.
I wasn't there because I stayed behind with the bus to try and get the bus fixed.
Oh, it's your oil pump. It's $600, and this thing is $300 or whatever. And we all just stood in the parking lot looking at each other, and we were like, it's over. Started piling our shit out, rented a minivan, drove a minivan for the rest of the tour.
It was only like a week, but it was like a long, cold, cramped week.
I always wanted to see Europe. I wanted to just check it out. Youth Brigade brought us over in '96, and for me, it was awesome.
It felt like it had been so long that we finally got to Europe, you know. And we got there and no one knew who we were, of course, and we had no records in any stores.
Totally lost every day, reading German maps, like, where's the Strasse? You know, like, we don't know where the fuck we are.
We played a lot of squats. I got attacked by a dog on stage in Germany.
It was cool, like, we just had fun with the Sterns. It was just sort of one giant party.
Early 1996 to early 1997, it was just like light speed, you know, it was just, they toured with bigger bands.
At the end of that year, we were on tour with The Descendants.
Brett Gurewitz was out to see them. And I guess he was kind of out to check us out too, and then like asked us after lunch, and we're like, all right, we'll go to a free lunch. Epitaph, we're so punk. But after like a 2-hour long lunch with him, we were like, wow, fucking, that's great. Like he just sat for 2 hours and talked and told us about how he runs the label.
He said, you want to fly to LA and I'll show you the record label? And we said, yeah.
That was all we needed. We're like, these people are cool. Everyone loves what they're doing here. Everyone's psyched. It was like such a good vibe there. I'm like, this place is great. This is fucking cool.
BYO was like totally, you know, to like do whatever you want to do, because like you're getting bigger and we support you and whatever you want to do.
After they finished the manufacturing distribution deal and they could sign with anybody, any major, any indie, any of those labels would have taken them. That was cool to see them be like, you already fucking dissed us, you know, and, you know, go with Epitaph.
The self-titled record we wrote at Serenity in my apartment.
There's some glimmers of good stuff on the self-titled record, but a lot of it's unfinished ideas.
You don't do that. Fuck that thing. I thought you did, and I'm trying to play. It's stupid. This is what I'm asking.
I don't go da da. I go da 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 da.
Well, da 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 da.
It goes with the drums. It's like da 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 da.
That was like right coming out of the Maniacal era, and everyone was a little just like, what am I? Where am I? I've been homeless for 5 years. What's going on? We're on Epitaph. Recording it was fun. We did it with Tom Wilson.
It was fun because like that time like we had like a lot of friends in California, and then we just like record and then go hang out with friends.
We won't fight your dad, but we better fight your mother. We're gonna have a party. 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 Okay, one more time.
I think between doing part of the Warped Tour and then having an album out on Epitaph, it definitely helped us.
On the surface, everything was fine. The band was doing okay. But I was so introverted and I couldn't like break out of my shell.
Similar to the same thing I went through, you know, but like in his way, just like his demons, facing his demons, like questioning himself, questioning everything.
We went out on tour with the Pie Tasters, and I was just a drag to be around, and I would barely get through the shows. I couldn't really talk on stage.
And Greg came out and they played the whole set, and he never took the microphone off the mic stand.
Me and Pete were like just rocking out as hard as we could, and Greg was just like.
And I just remember thinking to myself, oh, that was the worst I've ever seen them.
That Pie Tasters tour, that was like the only time that I ever thought of going home. Like I was like, I'm just gonna go home. This sucks. I think that was the only time that I've ever thought about quitting the band.
Drinking and getting wasted wasn't doing anything for me anymore. And on top of that, I wanted to remember what it was like to be a kid and have fun without doing anything. It seems so simple, but I had forgotten that.
You're going to India. You've been to India before. Yes. Shall, like, understand why you is from India. I'm from there. And now, like, the whole band is leaving. How long are you going to be in India?
2 weeks.